Hey everybody, welcome back to another manga review over here on the Tkyosam channel. And today we're talking about some of the manga that I own here, and we're gonna do a review on it because I need to kill some time before I go. And these manga reviews, these VHS reviews, are a great thing to do in between killing time. Remember when we were younger and we wanted to kill time, so we'd like play Crazy Taxi or something, and that was an easy way to kill 10 minutes? Well, today I'm gonna do the same thing here with this manga review. Today I am talking about My Home, Afro Tanaka. Now, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I love this series. This is a series about this guy. His name's Hiroshi, and he is a guy from Saitama. He's a Japanese man who he moved from Saitama to Chiba to Tokyo. This character, I was originally introduced to this character because I really like the manga Gantz, and Gantz was in Young Jump, and that's like the weekly comic, weekly comic magazine that has a bunch of different comics. And one of the comics that they would show is Afro Tanaka, and I don't remember what series I started Afro Tanaka with, because this is the story this is the story of a girl. This is a story of a dude who drops out of high school, and then he starts working, and then it just like follows his life. It follows like the different girls that he dates. It follows like him moving different prefectures, and so there's a lot of different manga out there. There was like Chutai Afro Tanaka, or wait, there's Koko Afro Tanaka, Chutai Afro Tanaka, Jokyo Afro Tanaka, Surashi Afro Tanaka, Shiawase Afro Tanaka, and Keikon Afro Tanaka, and My Home Afro Tanaka. So that's like what, 6 or 7 manga series based around this character. And this character, he means a lot to me because, like, I started reading this, I guess maybe at the beginning of when I first started, like, moving to Japan. Like, basically the first year I was here, I started really getting into Gantz. So I've been reading this manga for close to 20 years. Oh my god, I'm old. Yeah, and it's just like I've kind of grown up with this character. And for any of you guys who have like really gotten into language learning the way that I did through media, it's cool because, I think unlike our parents' generation or whatever, we've had the chance to grow up with characters, right? Like, we have all these reboots of like Full House, or like Train Spotting or something, where it's like we saw this as a kid, and like Dave Chappelle's still doing like stand-up or whatever. It's like we got to grow up with these influences that weren't like immediately people in our lives. They were just like people through the screen or a book, right? And so Afro Tanaka, like I started in the middle of the series. I think I started from like Surashi Afro Tanaka or something, and then I had to work my way back, and then I worked my way forward. But yeah, it's just like this story about this normal dude and his normal life with his normal friends. And if you're like one of those guys that's the opposite of me, like I came to Japan, and I lived in I didn't live in Tokyo on purpose, because I knew that if I lived here I probably wouldn't learn Japanese, and I would probably not make any Japanese friends. And so I purposely chose to live outside of Tokyo, so I would be forced to learn Japanese and forced to kind of integrate with people. And that's and like it's good though, because like it makes you feel like a deeper connection, and that's why I recommend to all of you guys who ever plan on moving to Japan, Tokyo's a great place to stay for like a vacation, but don't move here immediately. Branch out and try the other parts of Japan, because once you move here you're probably not going to leave, and there's too many options to use English everywhere and make friends with other foreigners. So yeah, and anyway, Afro Tanaka. The last series was called Keikon Afro Tanaka, which is like Afro Tanaka getting married to his wife Nanako. And it's funny because like it goes from like it goes on all these different stories, right? So it's like, Afro Tanaka, he moves out of his parents' house, and then he gets a job, and then he gets a girlfriend, and then she breaks up with him. So then he starts working for all these, he goes back to working with his company and living in the dorm, and then he meets his now wife Nanako, and they start dating, and then they get married, and then they have a kid. And, I'm not married, I don't have a kid, but I feel like a lot of people that kind of just float through life, and they don't really want to have they don't like go out of their way to research stuff, you know, like research marriage or research how to raise kids or research what to do with their money. You know, it's funny because like I study a lot of stuff, you know, I study psychology, I study financial shit, and you know, it's funny because I think the author, like after reading this for so long, I kind of get the idea now that he's talking more, like he reads self-help books and shit like I do too, and so he's showing like the side of people that read self-help but they don't apply it to their lives, but he still mentions it in here. And I really like it how it's just like, you know, 20 years ago or something, like I don't think Japanese people could be based or red-pilled, but in this book, like in this series, it's just about, this is like the new series where Afro Tanaka is just showing off you know, his life. You know, he's like showing like his kid is now 4 years old in the manga, and it's just showing like, you know, like what is it, like he still hangs out with his friends that work for the same construction company that are, and like he still hangs out with his friends from high school and stuff. And I like it because they talk about all these different topics. Like in one of the books, for instance, this is only 4. I'm guessing that they're going to come out with 10 eventually. But in one of the books, they're talking about how it's like how to understand women, you know. And I remember this was a topic a long time ago I read somewhere where it was like, whenever a woman is talking about anything, just think of it as your penis. Like switch out what she's saying with your penis. So it's like if a woman's like, oh, you know, I don't look good in makeup. It's like what, you know, it's like what you think that she wants to hear, what she versus what she actually wants to hear. And so it's like, oh, my dick doesn't look good erect. What do you think? You know, my dick is so pathetic when it's not erect. What do you think about it? It's like, well, what would you want a woman to say to you if like that? And it's like, oh, I get it now. And it's like a woman's like, oh, my tits aren't big enough. Like, you know, I have small tits. What would you say if you're like, oh, my dick isn't big enough? Oh, yeah, I bet you like big dicks, right? It's like, what would you want her to say? And it's like, oh, so that's like a really good way of explaining, like, oh, I kind of understand where a woman's coming from now. And like they have stupid anecdotes like that in this book too, and they talk about how it's like you know, listening to women talk, even though it's boring and you don't want to fucking listen to it necessarily. Like the same hormone that comes out of their brain during sex is the same one that they have when they're kind of venting or talking to their guy and they feel like they're being heard. And it's like, shit, I read that. Like I read that before I read this, and I'm like, where the fuck did I read that? And so like also in one of the books they're talking about moving to a new area because like you are the average of your 5 friends that you hang out with. And at first I didn't believe that, but now I think it's kind of true. You know, like I hang out with a lot of people that are freelance, that have similar schedules to me now. So it's like if I compare my lifestyle to the people I hang out with, yeah, it's kind of true, you know, like so it is like kind of nature versus nurture kind of thing. And anyway, like the whole so that's just some fun tidbits about this, right? Now, I really like it how they tackle some topics too, like Afro Tanaka and his wife, you know, like they got married just randomly, you know, because she wanted to get married. And like he didn't really think about it that much, you know. He's like, oh, I guess she's good enough kind of thing. And it really goes to like the golden handcuffs kind of thing. Like they always think about, like everything is 2020 in hindsight, right? But it goes to show like what no planning and just like kind of half-assing shit gets you. And so like his wife is like, oh, you know, like I need to you know, like we need to buy or we need to move to, like we need to buy a house. And he's like, you work part-time at a sushi place while you're trying to make a manga, like be a successful manga artist, and I work at a construction company. There's no way I can afford a house right now, so like we should move somewhere, and we can move to an area and we can rent in that area. And so they moved to Urawa, which is it's a nicer area. I have a friend that lives in that area right now, and that's like kind of northwest. Oh, I mean, Saitama all just stretches from northwest Tokyo, but yeah, it's a close part to Tokyo, and I guess it's a developing area. I haven't been there for like 6 years or something. It's been a while, probably longer. But yeah, so like there, you know, this whole series is like, you know, the last series was Keikon, so like marriage Afro Tanaka and everything leading up to his marriage, and then this one is about buying his new house, you know, getting his house so his daughter can grow up in her house and blah blah blah. And I don't know, man. Like I think the manga artist really shows that he doesn't. I think he likes women, but he shows like how Yeah, what am I trying to say? It's like he shows what a lot of Japanese women who don't have a who don't have a strong man in their lives do. Like, you know, they don't have really a lot of foresight. They're impulsive and they don't have money, so they spend their husband's money. And it made, like, this series makes me really hate Afro Tanaka's wife. She's very impulsive. She has unrealistic expectations, and she kind of expects him to do a lot of things. And then, like, you find out, I think in the 4th manga here, that it's been 5 years since they had sex. And he's like, oh man, well, yeah, my daughter is 4. And so once my wife got pregnant, we didn't have sex anymore. So it's almost been 5 years since we didn't have sex. And, like, they've become roommates. And they're, I mean, like, you know, I've never been married and had a kid, so I don't really know the specifics, but I could assume that, or at least, what is it? It's like a fool doesn't learn from his mistakes. A smart man does, but a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. And, you know, one thing I've learned from people that had, like, shitty marriages and got divorced with kids or whatever, it's that, like, you need to put the relationship with your wife first and keep the romance there, even if it seems a little bit, like, habitual and kind of like, you know, like, scheduled and bullshit. Like, you need to go out of your way to keep that as the forefront. Otherwise, because, like, otherwise, if you let it go automatic like this, the women just think of their husbands as, like, this paycheck roommate who lives with them, and then they take care of the kids. And I don't know, it's really sad. And, like, even with some foreigner friends that I know, I met up with my friend last week, and he's like, as soon as I had a kid, as soon as I had my kids, my wife, like, I became the last person in the house. My wife is the top one, and then my kids are above me, and then I'm the lower one. And, you know, he's all depressed, and I'm showing him that Chris Rock clip about how it's like only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. But if you're a man and you can't provide, then you're not worth shit, and there's no support. Like, they're not going to support you. It's just like, of course you should do that. And, I don't know, it's just, like, there's a part in one of the books where his wife is like, oh man, this guy grew up to be a genius Japanese shogi, like a Japanese professional chess player, and his mom wrote a book on how to raise geniuses, so, like, we should do the same thing, and we should buy our kid, like, Lego blocks or whatever, and like, you know, that way, like, the wooden Lego blocks, because that'll encourage her creativity. But then they never actually, like, play with her with those blocks, or they don't encourage her to play with them. So it's just like, and they're really expensive because they were shouted out in that book. So it's like $400 for a shitty wooden Lego set that they never use. And yeah, I mean, like, poor Afro Tanaka, like, he's, you know, he's cucked, you know, like, his wife isn't cheating on him, but he's not fucking her. There's a part in the book where his wife hits his kid because she put too much stress on herself. Like, she gets a call from her publisher saying, we're giving you a chance to write a new manga and we'll pay you for it, but we need this manga. You need to send us, like, a, you know, finish the first draft, and then we're going to rework it a bunch, but you got to, like, work on it right now. We only have, like, a 3-month time window. And so even though Afro Tanaka asks his wife, like, or he tells her, he's like, hey, I'll help out around the house, you know, I'll do some chores. She's like, no, it's fine. What? Like, her pride gets to her, and she gets super stressed out. And then she brings her kid to the park, and the kid's like, Mom, look, I'm doing this stuff. And the mom's like, and she buys a new iPad so she can draw manga. And then the kid, like, is angry that the mom's not paying attention, so she just throws these acorns and stuff on the iPad, and then the mom slaps the kid, right? And because she's just so stressed out because she hasn't been sleeping, she's been overworking herself. And I don't know, I mean, like, I'm happy that I'm reading this book before I'm married, and I'm happy that whoever's reading this before they're married, it gives them kind of an idea of, like, oh, like, this isn't just for entertainment. This is like a guidebook on what not to do or what to be careful about. And yeah, I mean, like, I like it how this, it kind of, like, you know, like, what is it? It's like art reflecting real life here. Like, his friends that he works with, his coworkers, right? Like, one of them, he, you know, like, he gets, like, he loses a bunch of weight and he starts exercising, but since he's still hanging around with the losers from his work in like, the dormitory, like, he goes back to his bad habits and stuff because these guys are unmotivated and they're not doing anything. And I like it how they don't make a big point of that, but, like, they show it. Like, it's obvious that, like, that's what happened, you know? And I like it too, but again, like, this is a very based book. Like, there's one guy, and his name is Sato, and he's a new guy who works at the construction company, and unlike all the other young dudes, he moved out of his, like, out of the dorms to his own apartment because he wants a girlfriend and he wants to be able to fuck her there. And so, and he's like, just, you know, he's had sex, but he's only had it a little bit. He wants more. And so he's watching all these YouTube videos on how to be a player and stuff, and like how to fuck chicks. And he does all this stuff, you know, like he rearranges his whole room to make it, and like he decorates it to make it feel more comfortable for women. You know, he starts like going on dating apps and like hitting up chicks or whatever. And I mean, like, he's making a lot of mistakes. I think, you know, if I could talk to the manga character, I'm like, you're fucking up. But the whole point is, at least he's trying, though. And like at one point, he's talking to the losers in the dorm, and they're like, dude, you like spending all this money living by yourself and buying all this stuff for your apartment. Like, why don't you just go and fuck hookers? And the dude is like, well, because that's a waste of money. And they're like, why? You need to bust a nut? You go to a hooker, you bust a nut, you're all good. And he's like, yeah, well, and they're like, you're not even busting nuts of this shit. And he's like, well, I'm, you know, he's like, unlike formal school or education, he's like, I'm using this money to kind of pay for my education on how to get women. He's like, this is a big deal to me. Like, he's like, I don't want to be single. I don't want to be like a single dude in his 40s or whatever. He's like, I want to have a girlfriend. I want to have a lot of sex. I want to eventually get married and have kids. And he's like, if I just keep fucking hookers, God damn it, fucking camera overheating. Anyway, so on Sunday, Yamada always goes to the hookers because I guess there's a big discount on Sunday mornings. It's like a matinee for hookers. And and then he spends the rest of the day doing stuff. He'll go and like have a picnic, and like he'll go and do stretches. He'll go and do window shopping, and he gets his 10,000 steps in. And he'll like go outside and he'll like have a barbecue and stuff and drink a nice fresh beer. And his coworkers are like, why do you look so calm and settled and stuff on Sundays? You know, you always look like you have this peace of mind face on you. And he's like, oh dude, I just bust nuts. They're like, what? And he's like, yeah, every Sunday I go to a hooker and I just bust nuts in the morning, and then I'm just like, I'm great for the rest of the day, and then I just do stuff that like I really enjoy, like barbecuing fish. And he's like, this fish only cost me 100 yen, but I'm grilling it on my barbecue so it tastes really good, and I've got this fresh beer, and I'm outside, and it's nice. And I'm like, wow, you know, I guess for this guy, he found out what his happiness was, you know, but for the other dudes, at least they're trying, right? And anyway, I don't know, this is a really interesting series. Honestly, of the Afro Tanaka series, oh god, I am sweating. I always sweat. I should put a fan over here so I'm not sweating. Anyway, the whole thing about this series, though, is that it's just, you can start off with any of these series and work your way back or work your way forward like I did. But if you want to have a taste, if you want to have like more of a realistic expectation about like what like normal Japanese dudes are, and like what it's like just living in Japan, this is a great series to start off with, guys. And like, for example, like there are these trees in Japan that when they bloom, they smell like jizz. They smell like jizz, and anybody who's ever smelled jizz, you know, I know the guys out there know, but like the women that know, there are trees here that just bloom and they smell like jizz. And like, I remember in one part of this book, they're like, hey, ちょっと精神の匂いしてるじゃね? And like, oh, そうだよ, 精神じゃね? And like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, like, I felt that way too when I was walking outside. So, I don't know, it's a great series to start off with, and the Japanese isn't super complicated. And yeah, like even in this one, they're talking about like how housing loans work and why you have to sign up for like life insurance if you get a housing loan and all this stuff. So it's very interesting. And anyway, I suggest giving this a follow, or you know, like checking this out next time you're in Japan. If you're in Japan, go to Book Off. You can buy them for super cheap. And yeah, anyway, that's going to be it for this review. Thank you guys for watching. Do you want to see more of these manga reviews? Let me know by typing it in the comments. And yeah, also, if you guys have any manga recommendations for like slice of life stuff, please write it down in the comments down below. And I try to get at least 50 likes on these videos. So if you made it this far, show me you care by smashing the like button. And yeah, I'll see you. This was a long one. Thanks, guys. Kiss the Afro Tanaka. Kiss him. Kisses. Kisses.